Donald Trump has crashed our economy, and at this point, I think even he knows it because it is too obvious not to. I know he is not a smart man, he's a very stupid person, but it is difficult in the face of crashing markets, spiking recession risk, people losing their jobs by the tens of thousands already, to not realize he screwed up, and he's panicking publicly. And his most recent post on Truth Social that shows that Donald Trump knows it's over for him after China responded to his tariffs. And we are going to get into that freak out. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into China's response to Donald Trump's tariffs and his panic post, I want to hear what Donald Trump thought China would do just yesterday.
On your earlier comment about TikTok, you said that the Chinese might be willing to agree to approve that sale in exchange for tariff relief. Is that something that you've floated to them or you've heard from them? Or
no, I'm just using that as an example.
Okay.
Let's say we had a problem with TikTok, and let's say China wasn't going to approve. We could use tariffs in order to get it approved. You know,
the deadline is
you give them
Saturday.
something in return.
What's the update on the deal negotiations for TikTok?
We're very close to a deal with a very good group of people for TikTok.
Larry Ellison or
Is it multiple investors? Just
Multiple.
And then did the last minute bids kind of throw things into disarray for you, or do you have your strategy completely locked up on who's going to
Which last minute?
on acquiring TikTok?
No, I think that China maybe will call and say, well, we're upset with the tariffs, and maybe they want to get something a little bit in order to get TikTok approved. Who knows?
is there plans underway to speak to Xi?
I have no knowledge of that, but that's the kind of thing.
On Israel, can you give us any?
We talked about this yesterday, that Donald Trump was clearly referencing that TikTok is happy to put on propaganda for him. But in what world was his interaction with the CEO of TikTok going to stop China from responding with reciprocal tariffs? I can't even conceptualize the idea of how he thought this would go in his mind, because anything but what he expected has happened. And it is the reason that recession odds are skyrocketing right now and markets are tanking. Just listen to Fox News, yes, the Fox propaganda outlet, actually delivering some real news about how terrible this is.
China responds to Trump's tariffs, and the market sells off again. Starting April 10th, China will apply a 34% tariff on all imported goods from the United States. Thursday was the worst day for stocks since March 2020, and very early this morning, prices were falling again. Then, around 6 a.m. Eastern, the China news hit, and stocks doubled their losses. Now, we don't know if other countries will retaliate in the same way. We don't know the effect on corporate profits. We don't know the effect on inflation. Talk about uncertainty. The Dow set to lose about, let's see now, about 970 points at the opening bell. The S&P 500, 123. The NASDAQ down about 455. Plenty of red ink. Little context, please. Stocks up roughly 20% in both 2023 and 2024. So we're down roughly 20% so far in 25.
So China is unsurprisingly responding, and it is the reason that the markets continue to crash. It is the reason that we are expecting now, 60% is the expectation that we'll have a recession at this point, 60% odds. It was, what, 1% at the end of the Biden presidency? Remember when everyone said during the Biden presidency that there was going to be a recession? All but sure of it. And then what happened? A booming economy. And then everyone decided, they say, oh, the Trump presidency, we're going to have this great, this amazing economy. What are we doing now? It's just, and it's not just liberals, pundits saying this. Listen to Donald Trump's own administration. Marco Rubio right here.
I don't think it's fair to say economies are crashing. Markets are crashing because markets are based on the stock value of companies who today are embedded in modes of production that are bad for the United States.
They have to admit it. Even Marco Rubio is saying it. I guess, that thing about a broken clock is pretty right. Even they know. It's the reason that Trump is panicking so much and trying to play tough when we know he's freaked out on Truth Social. Trump wrote, China played it wrong. They panicked. The one thing they cannot afford to do. What do you mean it's the one thing they can't afford to do? Are you saying that them putting tariffs on American goods is something they can't afford to do because it'll cost their consumers more, because tariffs are a tax on consumers? Because if that's what you're saying, then maybe stop with the tariffs that are a tax on American consumers. Maybe we can't afford it. I see all these tweets from MAGA. We saw Harris Faulkner say it's patriotic to pay more because of Donald Trump. Someone saying, oh, you don't need that new iPad. You don't need, to get a new refrigerator. You don't need a new car. Those are wants. Be a patriot. Suffer because of Donald Trump. Lose your job. It's insanity what MAGA is trying to defend right now. They just can't. And it's why we see, slowly but surely, even some of Donald Trump's most loyal sycophants admitting the truth. They're panicked.
What President Trump is initiating here, this is a long-held belief that he believes that tariffs will correct those problems. But what's also indisputable is the markets are down about 8% in just 2 days, and I'm getting all kinds of reaction from businesses, farmers in Wisconsin that are highly concerned about what's happening. So those are the facts. I don't know, all I can really do is kind of report the reality to the administration, let them know, how these actions are impacting my constituents, and it'll be pretty much up to President Trump and his administration to determine exactly how long they're going to go down this road, when they can start negotiating with our trading partners. Obviously, some gains, $5 to $6 trillion of investment has been committed. That's what President Trump claims. Some of our trading partners have lowered tariffs. So, I just can't predict how this is going to turn out here. It's a bold, risky move.
It's the uncertainty that's hurting the market as well.
This is just truly like maybe the lowest point for Trump with MAGA, which is crazy. It is crazy that we've seen more Republican senators speak out against this than January 6th. Not that we need to get into a comparison here, but Ted Cruz yesterday, who was more than happy to defend an insurrection, was like, I don't know about these tariffs, man. Trump might have lost it on this one. It's like this one, this is where he lost it. This is your breaking point. After all this time, you finally realized he doesn't know what he's doing, that he's a moron, that he's screwing the country with every action he takes, only to benefit himself and his wealthy friends, which his wealthy friends aren't even being benefited. The stock market is crashing. All the guys who went to Donald Trump's inauguration have lost tens of billions of dollars, which is the only thing that makes this a little sweeter. It's a complete crash. It is pandemonium. It's chaos, all because of Donald Trump. And Ari Melber did a great job breaking down a little bit more of how really the whole country's economy is affected in this clip right here.
Risking a recession, and that's according to many experts in the coverage we've seen all across this chaotic day. And let's be clear, Trump's policies slapping a giant tax on Americans, as his former VP Mike Pence put it today. Numbers do not lie. We always try to show you the facts here and lead with the facts. And while some numbers are so bad that we can all reasonably agree it's not a good thing, it's a bad thing, I want to begin not with my observation or Nicole's or what we've discussed in plain English, but the numbers that show these are the most damaging tariffs in a century. And this is now, today, the largest stock slide since the global pandemic first arrived in President Trump's first term.
Markets look set to sell off as Donald Trump imposes the steepest U.S. import levies in a century.
I don't think there's a single positive take on this. This is all just bad.
Stocks set to wipe out nearly $2 trillion in market value.
Taking a plunge as investors react to the sweeping tariffs. The world was yesterday sort of bracing for a bazooka. But Trump decided he was going to go the Chicago way, and he dropped an economic Moab.
And they are going to turn it upside down, and I think 50-50 into a recession.
Markets tanking. Experts warning of a recession which would be self-inflicted by a new president in the beginning of the term, almost unheard of. In fact, to find a stock slide this bad, as mentioned, you have to go beyond any of the normal volatility. You have to go beyond the inflation-plagued Biden term. And you have to go back to that unusual moment, which we all shared together, when the world began to grasp that it was facing a global pandemic in COVID. The market is a collection of companies and people reacting to events. And it began to quickly absorb how bad the pandemic was going to be. And that was the last time we saw this large a drop. Stocks suffer biggest one-day wipeout in value since that March 2020 pandemic is the Wall Street Journal's headline today, a kind of a Bible for Wall Street. You can see the steep plunge in the combined drop there among the 500 largest companies. Those are the biggest companies that trade publicly. And you can see the reaction quite clear to the Trump tariff announcement, these new tariffs that escalate what was already a costly trade war. It is hard to put the numbers, which I told you is how we're leading tonight, so you can just remember some of the basic math, but it's hard to actually put them in perspective. I could tell you that that is a sudden, seismic 4.8% drop in all of those stocks, the 500 stocks traded on S&P, or I could estimate the value. It's a rough number, but it is a big one. That drop constitutes, in response to Trump's plan, which he was warned against, over $2 trillion lost here. Similar story on the Dow, down about 4%. The other broad stock exchange, the NASDAQ, even worse, plummeting 6%. This is the math. Numbers don't lie. These are the new Trump tariffs, which, as many people warned, many experts warned, and many Trump allies, Republicans, Wall Street veterans warned, are now sinking every market index, battering U.S. stocks. If you look at the measure that includes more companies, they're actually hit the worst. In other words, I mentioned that 4% was trillions. The 2000 index of the companies that include smaller companies located in other parts of the country, et cetera, they're actually taking it the worst. And there's a lot of Trump voters and, frankly, a lot of people in general affected. But that's down 21% from its market high. These tariffs from Trump are escalating the trade war to new heights. They're guaranteeing more countermeasures in the trade war as they hit every country, big or small, rich or poor. Take one conservative magazine that tracks this very closely, The Economist. They call it now Ruination Day, showing President Trump quite literally sawing the U.S. off the map. A self-inflicted wound, isolating us from the rest of the global economy. It's a contrast from a few months back under Biden, when The Economist, which is a right-leaning kind of pro-corporate but internationally objective magazine, that's what they say they are, commented that at that point we had the economy that was the envy of the world.
Yeah, so I guess this is what happens when you have a moron for a president. Gosh. It's not great. It's not great, folks. I really don't know what to say at the end of this one. This is why Trump doesn't get to be everything that you want him to be. Not you, of course. You knew what he would be, which is a fascist and a moron. So many people saying, that's not what Trump really meant a couple weeks and months ago. Oh, he's not really going to do that. He would never actually do that. He's just saying that. Really? Believe the man. He's a liar. But when he says something that's going to be damaging, believe that. And we're going to call that thing out. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you're stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.